Happy Saturday! Welcome to the Great Age Movement at Home Lab Series in partnership with the Health Museum. And today we have a special guest and we'll be talking about life coaching. Welcome to the show, Patricia Mallison, and we call her Pasha, so you might hear me interchange her official name and her fun name.
Thank you, Fritz.
Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming. I think this is an interesting field and also of importance for mental health beyond the medical approach of addressing your mindset.
That's right.
So let's start with tell me a little bit about you and life coaching and how you got involved with that.
So I started life coaching about 12 years ago when I was going through a unhealthy transition myself, and I fell into the niche of divorce recovery coaching.
Okay.
I started that when it wasn't a thing. It wasn't popular. Nobody really knew what that was. I attended Coach U University, and through the years, I've just created my own education and done some education programs. Last year, I graduated with my master's from Tulane. And then I also did my second RYT registered yoga training, 300-hour with Johnny Test.
Oh, excellent. I don't know who that is, but I'm sure it's top of the line. And people are always a little skeptical about new things, like
That's
new
right.
age approaches to uh, healing ourselves or nurturing ourselves. So let's talk about what is a life coach for the
Well,
audience
a
and
life
listeners.
coach is someone that you can talk to and supports you, but they also provide you accountability and a soundboard for new ideas. They help you create goals
Mhm.
and keep you accountable on them.
And it sounds like they help organize you. You might have all these ideas or goals, but don't know how to quite approach it, right?
That's right. And sometimes we don't have that person or the support system to give us honest feedback or the clarity of thought. And so this person provides that for you.
And well, why don't we reach out to our spouse? How's that different? Is it the vulnerability?
It's vulnerability, but it's also a whole different dynamic. I mean, our
Yes.
spouse provides a different support system. And sometimes we're just not aligned. And it's nice to have someone that's impartial
Hmm.
and professional and that can hear you without all the other filters that we live with on a day-to-day basis
And without judgment. Not to
and
say your
without
spouse
judgment.
judges you.
Well, it's human nature. We
It
can't
is.
help
It
but
is.
judging.
Yeah. That's very interesting. So let's go a little further into it and look at who would need a life coach.
Well, in my perspective, I think everybody needs a life coach. I have a life coach. It's the accountability. As we get older, we have thoughts in our heads. We have plans that, if go unchecked,
Hmm.
we tend to just wander. And so, a life coach creates that stability, the sounding board of creating a long-term fulfillment of what
Hmm.
you really, where you really need to be.
So when we're looking at seniors, they obviously have been sheltered the most, and they continue to be sheltered with higher restrictions. I'm sure they've gone through quite a bit of this kind of being stuck in a space. And I know loneliness and this isolation ensues. And they may have had it even before the pandemic.
Mhm.
Um, how, how do you address seniors in terms of what a life coach could do for them?
Well, with this pandemic, it has created some difficulty for everybody, and it's been such a long-term process that reimagining ourselves in a new normal has become a little difficult. And so, what a life coach would do is to help create new boundaries, a new sense of fulfillment. They would hone in on their skill set and their gifts because we all contribute things to partnerships and
Mm-hmm.
organizations. And so, for seniors that may be isolated, or for most of us that have been isolated, um, working from home initially seemed like a dream. And now working from home seems it could be torturous, right? Because
Yeah. It's
we
like the
don't,
grass is greener on
right?
the other side. You experience it, and you're like, okay, now I want something else. So to me, it sounds like we're missing that person inside to address that loneliness, because that's where it's at. This isolation and this feeling of loneliness. So I feel like the life coach would tap into that. Like you were mentioning gifts and skills. A
Hmm.
lot of people have retired and they're thinking that their skills were their job or their hobbies that they don't do anymore.
That's right.
But I'm sure it's deeper than that.
Well, it's also remembering who you are fundamentally, and we forget that. We get so busy with our jobs or our responsibilities that we forget that we do have a different part of us that we get passionate about things. And so it's nice to remember what those outlets are. And so a coach would help you remember that and nurture that and bring it to fruition for others and for themselves.
It's very, very good. Let's talk about, let's give an example. I think that's important. Of somebody who just moved from their home of 40 years and now they live in a senior community. They don't know anyone. The family will come visit maybe once a week, and yet they have all these activities around them, right? They have a
Mm.
movie theater, they have cocktail hour at 4 o'clock, but now they're at a stage in life that this is what I've seen collectively in the healthcare field is they feel like they're too old to engage people, they're too old to engage in activities with people. How do you overcome that
Well,
in a new space?
right. With the new space, you need to explore the new boundaries and new possibilities, giving people hope again and what they can look forward to. And I think that with this pandemic and with the senior lifestyle, you can forget those things.
Mhm.
And so it's good to have a community and rebuild that community, whether it's online
Uh-huh.
or in person or however else your facility supports. And then you have other people that in other niches of senior living that you can build that community with that support each other. So you're not just looking at a life coach, you're looking at people that are in the facility as
Yeah,
well.
and a new lifestyle. So the
That's
coaching
right.
would be developing this new lifestyle.
Yes.
So, like, okay, for example, I listed some activities within these senior communities. Would you take that senior as a life coach, uh, like, start with one activity? Maybe they're so apprehensive or hesitant because I got to meet somebody new, I got to tell my whole life story. Would you take them like you take these steps to try one activity and then explore their feelings of what they experience?
I think fundamentally what you would do is try to remind your client of what they like to do, what they're good at. And then they can create that own connection. And yes, you can go to that class and enjoy it, but you need to find out what they really enjoy and who they
Mm-hmm.
were before all of this because we forget. We
Mm-hmm.
forget when we've been working for so many years or we've had children or grandchildren, all those things, we do things for other people and then we forget who we are in the
Mm-hmm.
basics. And so tuning them back into what their passions are, what they enjoy, and how to get involved in those activities.
Yeah.
That's
Now,
really
if it's
important.
activities that are outside of uh, the reality of their situation, like say they now live in a senior community, but they play golf, they broke their hip, they're not going back to it, but they still like golf. So how would you connect them to that outside of being able to actually play it?
Well, I mean, the thing about life is we're all resilient and we have to embrace change. And that's really hard sometimes. And so it may not be about golf, it may just be about the actual injury or not being able to do something. And
Mm-hmm.
so getting them to realign on what the change is and how to overcome it.
Mm-hmm.
Because as seniors, they've been through a lot.
Sure.
We all have our own stories. And so that's not the first hurdle they're going to have to cross.
Mm-hmm. And you're so right because they are focused on injury that is preventing them from doing what they used to do.
That's correct.
So they immediately dismiss, I can't do that
Right.
But I'm liking this. You're basically as a life coach going to take them there and help them reconfigure their mindset to see what other possibilities that are out there to still get fulfillment.
Yes, absolutely. The fulfillment is very important at any age.
That's right.
We all want to feel a purpose. We all want to feel like we're contributing, and being reminded and put back on that path, it's empowering. And when you forget, you need to be reminded. And that's what a life coach's job is to be.
Excellent. I like that. Let's tell the audience the difference between like, so what we're talking about would seem like therapy,
Mhm.
right? Like I'm going to go see a therapist because I have these issues to work through, but distinguish the two.
Well, in a nutshell, a life coach helps you make goals and they help you move forward. And they're not revisiting trauma, they're not looking at your past. A therapist is someone that will dive in a lot deeper than a life coach
And go
and
back.
go back. And that's a very simplistic
Yes.
explanation. Um, but I've worked with life coaches and therapists. They
Mhm.
work hand in hand. It's a good team, so you can utilize both.
So if somebody was seeing a therapist to address whatever, maybe it was divorce or a loss of a loved one or personal things, you can still have a life coach that's working on moving you forward while you address things of
Yes,
your past with your therapist. So it all works together.
that's right. And so,
Okay.
like we're talking about, you're creating a community. So if you're
Mhm.
going through a divorce and you have an attorney, you work with your attorney, but then you would work with someone like myself, a life transition coach, that would help you with other aspects of your life. And the same thing goes with seniors. You know, you're going to
Yes.
have someone in the community that's going to help you rebuild your life and get you connected with activities. But the life coach helps you figure out, well, what are those activities? What's my passion now? What are those things that get me excited?
Mhm.
And so it's creating that whole other level of community for
That's right.
yourself.
I like that. Okay. Um, Tell me more.
Well, you know,
It's very new to me, and I'm just very interested in this because
Mhm.
it's definitely a different approach to mental health. I think we're often used to seeing the doctor and
Mhm.
you take the medicine and you do feel good because it's from a biochemical standpoint. But I think mental health, this is very enlightening to address some things you could just do through conversation and organization through somebody who has the skills to do that for a person seeking a different way to address their mindset.
Well, I think with my approach, it's holistic. And so, with my training with yoga and with business school and with the coaching, what it allows me to do is see the person with the different aspects. So, you're looking at the physical, you're looking at the mental, and the spiritual. And so, in a session, you are incorporating all three bits to create a healthier person. You're
Mm-hmm.
not just looking at what's going on in their head, you're not just looking at how their body is reacting to that. You're reminding them that you're all connected and you're bringing it all together.
Mm-hmm.
And so we will work on some breath work. We will do some very simple postures. And then we'll go into the coaching and see what their needs are for that day.
Mm-hmm.
But it is a new, it's a new and more refined approach than what I had been doing all these years because of my yoga training and the meditative work. It's a reminder that we can use our breath to stabilize ourselves, and
Mm-hmm.
we can also accelerate our growth by making sure that everything is connected.
Yes.
We don't leave one part of it on the table.
And I think that's kind of how we're introduced to things like, oh, I signed up for yoga or various forms of activities, like even just learning how to breathe with yoga. But I feel like, of course, some people keep going to the classes to keep up with yoga or breathing, but they don't quite know how to engage it with the whole picture, right?
Yes,
Like how I'm thinking, or when I get stressed, to immediately kick in that simple breathing exercise while you're in the kitchen as you're getting ready, saying, "Oh my God, I have all these things to do." And then you're drinking, your iced coffee, and of course that accelerates your heart rate.
That's
You
right.
know, and so I think this life coach uh, is like you said, bringing it to all together, so that it's just a common practice, whether it's yoga to stretch and get flexibility and blood flow in your body, or the breathing to calm yourself. For example, like you're sitting in traffic and you're just ready to get out of that car.
Well, yoga, I mean, all of those things are very important, just like seeing a therapist is important, or doing the physical yoga postures. My approach is that we incorporate a little bit of everything so that you can feel where your body is at and you can harness your breath. And so when you have those moments where things are getting out of control,
That's it.
you have a toolbox. You have some tools to anchor you because we forget. We get caught up in the emotions and the feelings
Mm-hmm.
and, COVID, all the things. And so it's a way to build some tool sets for those of us that have gotten so busy or, just experienced enough things that we forget about it.
And the tools are just within yourself. It's not like you have to run to like you can, of course, for de-stressing, like the gym or to a yoga studio, but it could just happen anywhere, anytime. If
Oh,
you need to
absolutely. Yeah.
center yourself and focus, because that's what I'm hearing is, you have all these things going on, but you don't know how to structure it or organize it, and that's where the life coach comes in to help you look at it differently, but also to structure it so you can achieve whatever your goals are or this need for fulfillment.
And I certainly recommend, I mean, doing the postures in yoga, several times a week and, obviously doing your own activities.
Yeah.
But yes, remembering and coming to your breath and uh, being able to anchor yourself to where you feel that calm and that peace, and you're able to recreate it at any time. And it's not fancy. You don't have to buy any equipment. You don't have to go do these things.
Mm-hmm.
It's right here in your chair, wherever you're at. And that can bring you calm and peace in those moments of uncertainty.
And it seems like the goal naturally be to achieve a simplistic life, right? But
Mm.
there's just so much noise around us that we get caught up in it, and we feel like we have to achieve or produce or stay super busy. And if you're living a life like that, I struggle with this.
Mm-hmm.
You live a life like that, and then you have downtime for an hour or two, but you can't slow your brain down
That's
because
right.
you're just so full of so many things you have to get done. And I feel like the life coach can also help with that. You know, even if you already have all these projects and goals already out there, but you don't know how to fully enjoy it because you're just checking them off, right? You're checking off the activities, the tasks, the goals, the achievements, but you're not in the presence of it. And I feel like a life coach could help even with that. If you already have, your goals and stuff, but to make sure you're harmonizing the experience, because that's what it is. It's the feelings from your experiences that you carry forward with. And I see a lot of seniors through my career, and they tell me about all their trips and their kids and all these experiences, and ultimately it's the feelings that they share with you that I feel is the most important part of living.
That's right.
Yeah,
Well, the busyness of life too is
yeah,
it's changed.
exactly, with the pandemic.
Right. And so we, at first, the calmness of not being busy and then not being busy is kind of depressing or it's a different realm right now. And so having that check in with those emotions and understanding where you're spending your energy and how you can feel a greater fulfillment with the tools and the gifts that you bring to the table and share
Mm-hmm.
with other people. And you can do it in such a manner that you do feel the fulfillment, but you also aren't wasting your time or lost in that process.
All right, list questions to ask yourself. Anybody out there watching us, what do you think you'd be doing right now And why has the pandemic changed or offset your path?
So that one's a really good question. What a lot of us, when we get into the spiral of uncertainty, or we wonder, am I doing the right thing? Am I spending my time doing what I want to do? What is my purpose? This comes up a lot. And so, what a coach does is they help you harness that and understand how you're spending your time, what you want to do, what were you doing over a year ago, and how has that changed? And how do we get you back on that track? Or if you're not back on that path, then let's find a different way to go and have peace with it and create those stepping stones or those goals to get you where you want to be.
And so, say if I have a life coach and we're addressing this particular question, um, do you meet with a life coach like weekly, or how does it work? I know you're setting goals and you want to have accountability, and that's where the life coach keeps you in check. How does it work for a life coach versus like a therapist? Do you schedule time every week, or
It's completely up to the client. It's preferably you meet once a week and you check in and you see where you're at and how to realign yourself for the next week. It depends on what their goals and how quickly they want to achieve them. Most of the time, it's done on Zoom or a video call, but you can do it in person, and you can do it every other week. It just depends on the client. But if you want to achieve faster results, once a week is probably recommended.
and you do it like in stints, and when you meet your goals, and then, or is this an ongoing thing?
It's really an ongoing thing because it's interesting. I mean, like I said, I have a life coach, and so when you get into these calls, they ask you what your intention is, what you would like to work on. It what you think you come into the session with.
Yeah,
Sometimes that's not what you leave with because you start speaking and you processing, and things change from there.
that's right. And they help you probably see the other, give you clarity
That's
to
yes,
to
yes.
how has that changed your frame of mind?
So again, we're referring to the pandemic and senior living and the isolation. So if you feel like your mindset has changed and you're having a difficult time resetting that, a life coach helps you, rein that in, figure out, well, where did we veer off this path? How do we get back on? How do we create clarity of goals and create the new mindset, a healthy mindset?
Especially if it's a new environment, like if you shifted from your home of 40 years to a senior community during the pandemic,
Yes.
and you can't even participate in activities because even within the buildings, now they've let up a little bit. People are doing small groups in senior communities, whether it's exercising or following all these guidelines. Actually, a lot of buildings have been vaccinated, but um, I mean, you're taking all of this in, right? Because you just left your home of 40 years, your neighbors, your friends, and then you have these restrictions imposed on you. Um, that adjustment is probably quite an ordeal for many people. And what would be the first thing that they should consider doing to address all this? I would say a bit of shock with change.
I believe that honoring where you're at and really just we all need to mourn parts of our lives that have changed, and that goes with any demographic. We have all suffered loss. We have all had severe changes this past year, and pretending like it didn't happen is not effective. And so, acknowledging it, talking about it, creating a plan based on that. And in the yoga community, we use the word Sangha a lot, and that means community. And we all have to rebuild, whether that means it's in the assisted living, whether it's working in your own home, working from home in the isolation. We have to rebuild it how it suits us. And yes, a coach can help you find out what that is, but at the end of the day, you have to be responsible for what that looks like.
Yes.
And so it's providing that accountability.
I think oftentimes when we feel lonely and we say we're lonely and we take no action, the reason why we take no action is because we suddenly have excuses. They're busy. My child's busy. They can't come. Or no, I'm not going to do that because I'm afraid I might fall. Or
Right.
you find all these reasons as to why you shouldn't do it, and yet that's where I think a life coach could explore that and move you forward. You agree on that?
I do agree on that. It's a process, and it's not to be rushed. It's to be honored. It deserves a closer look at it. You don't dismiss your loss. You don't dismiss the changes that we've all gone through, and that's what life's about. It's never changing. I mean, it never ends. It's our resilience to come and meet the challenge and bring what we have to the game, and that's our skill set. It's our gifts, our talents, our strengths, and it's helpful to be reminded what those things are because we forget.
Let me ask you this: do you use like tools like to find out more about the new client or the person you're going to coach? Like a friend showed me a thing I've never seen. It's called a life wheel,
Hmm.
and so it's like almost like taking inventory of parts of your life, and then you rate it on like it's like a scale to determine where you are, where you think you are, right? Like I don't put enough. I don't feel great about this. I feel awesome about this, etc. Do you use various forms of tools like this?
There are so many good tools out there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I find that the best tools that I have are my ears and listening
Mm-hmm.
and not speaking because people love to talk.
Yeah.
And it's good. Talking is
Am I a
good.
good example?
We're good examples.
Yes, good example.
But listening and
Yeah.
asking really good questions
Mm-hmm.
and then really holding that space to hear the answer and to be there and support them because the tools, there are endless tools. There's so many things that you can
That's
use. But if you can't hear the words and process them and then offer them back to who you just said them,
right. Mm-hmm.
you've lost that connection. You've lost the answers.
Yeah, and going back to this life wheel, it made me pause because I didn't think about all those categories like
Hmm.
personal growth and how did I see relationship? How do I measure that? Is it fulfilling to me? Activities and there's quite a few categories, and suddenly I'm really thinking of it's like introspection, which
Right.
I know I don't do enough of, but it was it was just like opening a door
Yes.
to
And
start
so,
thinking about those things,
right.
and it starts to make sense that you need to explore within. Who's that person within you? And I just when I first met you and you were talking about life coaching, I was like, I think I could benefit from this. I mean, my life, I feel like it's been wonderful. Lots of great things are happening, but I feel like I do a lot of things that I'm not in the present of saying, "Oh my God, good job!" Like
Hmm.
this is fulfilling, and you're not acknowledging it's fulfilling. You're just in the habit of checking things off. Partly how I was raised and kind of how our culture is.
Right.
To achieve, produce. Um, so that particular uh, tool, this life wheel, it made me stop and think about things at a deeper level. I feel like that's important. So
Absolutely. And I think that tool in particular, when you ask questions about personal growth and you look back at what you've done and accomplished and created, having that perspective and introspect
mm-hmm.
on that, uh, and a coach creates that for you because sometimes we don't sit still long enough to acknowledge all the growth that we have, all the things that we've overcome. As a society, we talk about resilience and how we're made to rebound and recover. And yes, that's true. But we also need to acknowledge and praise ourselves and each other and say, yay, you did that. Good for you. you've come a long way. And those words are so important. The affirmations and, the things that go with it, those are good feelings. And we can't overlook those.
And that should just be free flowing. Like to say,
Mhm.
hey, my God, good job.
Yes,
But I think we're in a habit of often comparing ourselves.
yes.
Even if it's not even the same profession or anything, people instead of that suddenly, it's just you just see it all the time, even online.
Mm,
Instead of just saying, this person wanted this and they achieved it, and as a friend or even a person watching, we should give of ourselves to make sure that person's moving forward with what they want to accomplish.
And I think that's important, especially right now in the pandemic. I think we've all been in our little bubble. And, as a mom, your objective literally is to keep your kids alive, right? You
Yeah.
want to keep them safe and you're
Yes.
doing this for your family. But then you forget, you become disconnected. And so, yes, so back to the accomplishment of, hey, you did this. You got through this past year.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. And you survived it and you've seen all the things that have happened socially and giving yourself a pat on the back. Yes, we all deserve that.
Great. The third question: do you need help resetting your new normal?
Yes,
I
that's a
think we
good one.
all do
We
because
all
we
do.
don't know what the new normal. There's still a level of uncertainty on a global level, but
Hmm.
just in our future, maybe how we work. A lot of people are working from home now, and they're thinking they anticipate going back to an office, but the longer we stay in this pandemic, who knows? Maybe many people will remain working from home.
Right.
So you want to make the most of it.
Yes.
So it's just a space.
So that's always been my favorite question is what's your new normal? It's before the pandemic, and obviously now it's more important than ever, but understanding where you are, what's important to you, what really resonates, and how you rebuild your life. We're all rebuilding our lives because there's still uncertainty. And so getting your mindset to where it needs to be to support those ideas are very important. And sometimes when we're in our bubble and we have those people around us all the time, those dynamics, they shift to unhealthy places and we can't appreciate the things that they say because we have this, filter of,
That's right.
what is their agenda, what's going on. And so having that outside person as a life coach to be able to hear your ideas and what you're thinking and what your goals are, to reset that mindset
Remember that
pre-pandemic.
block. Yeah.
Yes, that is powerful. And it's a wonderful tool to accelerate the process. When you do things by yourself, yes, you have certain control and ownership of it. But when you support yourself with community and people that align themselves to help rebuild, it's exponential. It creates faster growth and more effective.
Because you're essentially learning from others as well,
Yeah.
whether it's advice or like a cheer support. You start to, I guess, hone in on what you're learning from the life coach that is all around you, right?
Yeah.
To your friends, and you start to hear somebody say, "Oh my God, you did a great job." Oftentimes, for me, I just kind of like, "Thank you so much," but I don't fully process it. And I think you need that. It's almost like nourishment.
Oh, absolutely. And there are times, and I know that we all have all experienced this, but when you start talking and you hear yourself talking to someone else and you're like, wow, that was really brilliant or that was really good, but you can't hear yourself because it's not impartial. But when
Yes.
you're in the audience of someone that's giving you that space and you can hear yourself speak and you can hear your ideas and the clarity, it's a game changer.
That's right. This is really it's eye opening. I appreciate you sharing a lot of this general and introductory information about life coaching, and I hope we can take it further in a future episode to various examples and ways of approaching life.
Yes, absolutely.
Let's do an exercise just to
Okay.
demonstrate,
Okay.
and I'll let you lead the way.
Okay. So, wherever you are right now, find a comfortable position. It can be seated or laying down, whatever serves you. Maybe close your eyes and relax your body. If you're sitting, maybe you feel your feet touching the earth, and maybe let your shoulders relax and your shoulders fall down a little bit, relaxing your forehead and the back of your throat, and just feeling your body, feeling the sensations. There's no right or wrong. You're just here in this moment. And we're going to focus on our breath. As you inhale through your nose, notice how the breath feels coming in through your nostrils. And on an exhale through your nose, maybe notice the warmth that you feel. There's a very small patch of skin right underneath your nose where that air passes. So inhaling, feeling that coolness touch that piece of skin. And then exhaling, feeling that heat escape your body. And just letting go of all those thoughts because you are focused on your breath, the breath that keeps you alive, the breath that honors your body. And breathing in and breathing out. Maybe you feel your heartbeat, or maybe you feel the warmth or the earth on your feet. But just being here in this moment, this is exactly where you need to be. And maybe on your next breath, you open your eyes and take a look around, and you feel the gratitude of being alive.
Feels good. Yes.
To let go for just a minute.
Just to let go for a minute.
Yeah.
I think it's so essential. Now to get it into practice, I think is the key, right? And it comes back to focusing.
And you can do that anywhere, anytime. And sometimes it's contagious. If you do it, others will do it. Just like when somebody yawns.
Well, that's wonderful. I believe this is going to be very helpful to many people. This is an introduction to life coaching and what it's all about and how it could benefit you. Even the very tools that are expressed and talked about, and even just this simple breathing exercise. Well, we look forward to seeing you in the near future to do another show for us to enlighten our audience and give them something that brings hope, realignment, and a sense of focus on that inner self to help you achieve your goals.
I look forward to it. Thank you, Fritz.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We'll be back Saturday next week. Today's, what, April 17th? So let's say April 24th. And we'll have something new. Enjoy your weekend. Thank you again to all the people involved with the Great Age Movement. Our mission is to redefine old age through innovative community programs. We built a playground. We have a wonderful program at the Health Museum, our partners, and our live stream show. So you can always check out any of our videos from past shows. I believe we now have 34 episodes on our Facebook page, Great Age Movement, or you can go to our website to check out some of our other videos. Thank you again. Enjoy your weekend, and thank you.
Thank you.